Former President Donald Trump may just get presidential immunity after the Supreme Court hears his claim. So this is bound to be a huge win for him if ever he's granted immunity for official acts as president. Now, many question if this kind of power would lead to future presidents to monopolize the White House, as they can basically stay in power and say that their actions are an official act. Others say that there should be no intent to do that, as such would be viewed as a very personal and political act. One that wouldn't be under the scope of the presidential immunity if that comes to fruition. Now, if a president cannot put forth official acts without immunity, then that also opens the possibility of political retribution. Now, the idea is that when a president ends his or her term, they can be charged with many different crimes if you think about it. It's no secret that the commander-in-chief has a lot of power in his hands. This is the kind of power that could start or end wars. If one was not immune to future prosecution, then no president would ever take sweeping action such as targeting terrorist organizations for fear of involving innocent civilians, much like what Donald Trump's attorney said in his opening statement to the Supreme Court.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court, without presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, there can be no presidency as we know it. For 234 years of American history, no president was ever prosecuted for his official acts. The framers of our Constitution viewed an energetic executive as essential to securing liberty. If a president can be charged, put on trial, and imprisoned for his most controversial decisions as soon as he leaves office, that looming threat will distort the president's decision-making precisely when bold and fearless action is most needed. Every current president will face de facto blackmail and extortion by his political rivals while he is still in office. The implications of the court's decision here extend far beyond the facts of this case. Could President George W. Bush have been sent to prison for obstructing an official proceeding or allegedly lying to Congress to induce war in Iraq? Could President Obama be charged with murder for killing U.S. citizens abroad by drone strike? Could President Biden someday be charged with unlawfully inducing immigrants to enter the country illegally for his border policies? The answer to all these questions is no. Prosecuting the president for his official acts is an innovation with no foothold in history or tradition and incompatible with our constitutional structure. The original meaning of the executive vesting clause, the framers' understanding and intent, an unbroken historical tradition spanning 200 years, and policy considerations rooted in the separation of powers all counsel against it.
Now, it makes a lot of sense to legal analysts. Many criticize President Joe Biden for his open border policies, something that many Americans have said have changed our country for the worse. You can check with sanctuary cities that continue to have rampant crime and violence in broad daylight. Meanwhile, illegal aliens are provided food, clothing, and shelter, all on the dime of the American taxpayer. Now, if President Biden is not charged with crimes against his own country for letting these people, then does that mean that he is granted presidential immunity? It seems as though the argument from some is that Trump was acting on a very personal issue, one that involved the 2020 presidential elections. Now, Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson says that they cannot treat this as an official act, as Donald Trump was merely trying to hold on to office, meaning that him questioning the results of the election was not an official act. However, some experts believe that Donald Trump was doing the right thing. The idea is that he wants to maintain the integrity of the presidential election. Remember, Fulton County got blasted for counting 147,000 mail-in ballots that were not signature verified. A Fulton County Elections Board member voted against the certification of the 2020 presidential elections because they had more voters than they had in their entire populations, which puts into question if the voters were even legitimate, which now brings me to former Representative Liz Cheney. So Cheney's in a hurry to get this immunity case out of the way. Now, according to her, if the Supreme Court doesn't resolve this issue quickly and decisively, then it will have a profound negative impact on our country. Critics of Cheney say that she's merely trying to get Donald Trump before the 2024 2024 presidential elections. However, saying this might not help make Trump's immunity case go faster. In fact, it could possibly do the opposite of what she wants, as these judges don't necessarily appreciate being rushed. It's not like they're deciding on what movie to watch. Their decisions will leave a lasting impact on our justice system and could possibly change the landscape of politics as we know it. It's kind of similar to how special counsel Jack Smith wanted his case to go faster and even set a date for the judge. Judge Eileen Cannon criticized Jack Smith and said that him demanding a hurried decision was unprecedented and unjust. Now, Liz Cheney on her end, she says that a delay may prevent Donald Trump's case from being tried this year. She fears that the American people would probably never hear critical and historical evidence developed before the grand jury, adding that our justice system would probably miss holding Donald Trump responsible for January 6th. She wants this presented in an open court as quickly as possible because she feels as if the public would understand their urgency, emphasizing that the American people would be left to assess what the former president did back then and what a man capable of that type of depravity could do if again handed the power of the presidency. So Liz Cheney also hinted at them having testimony about the former president's conduct that she deems to be historic, one that would remain a secret until Smith presents his case at trial. However, the reality here is that the Supreme Court cannot rush something of this magnitude. Now, it's very obvious that the court is interested in what the future holds depending on their ruling. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who is a Trump appointee, he said that the case has huge implications for the presidency, for the future of the presidency, and for the future of the country. And this is probably them alluding to the fact that this would further push Donald Trump's election interference case months into 2024, something that would help Donald Trump's legal team, as it looks as if the goals for them at this point is to prolong these hearings until after the 2024 presidential elections. So Donald Trump's legal battles have also helped the former president. In a recent campaign stop with union workers, chants of USA, USA broke out into the crowd. This is as Donald Trump continues to cram in campaign action within his schedule, this time with members of the Teamsters Union. There are also chants of "We want Trump" coming from the crowd, with some of them meeting the former president for the very first time.
Trump showed up here to 48th Street and Park Avenue, to this building that's under construction. Here he met with construction workers as well as supporters. We saw dozens of people in hard hats, a lot of MAGA hats out here. Trump took selfies, he signed autographs, and we spoke to some supporters who say that they woke up early just to catch a glimpse of him, many thrilled just to shake his hand. We heard a lot of chanting, obviously a lot of "We love Trump" chanting out here.
USA! USA! USA!
Trump then boldly claimed that lifelong Democrats in New York would vote for him this November, probably because of how he's been treated by this political rival. That is, if we believe what Donald Trump is saying and that all of this has been the work of the current administration. But what do you guys think? Should Donald Trump be handed presidential immunity? And what could this start if he isn't provided this power? As far as I know, I'm gonna do my best to keep you all informed. I really appreciate you guys hitting the like button for the video. Thanks so much for sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter. I'll see you on the next one.